Hello everybody, welcome to the Drunk Knitter Podcast. I am your host, Sophia. I have all the pets in my room right now. I just hope that they're being really good so that way we can get this show on the road. Holy crap, I am not centered. Do you like the yarn I got in the background? It's going to be a spoiler yarn. I'm going to use that in the future for something, and I'm so excited for it, but that's all I can say. I'm sure there's some like detectives out there that could probably guess who provided that yarn, but yeah. So anyway, hi guys, welcome to the podcast. I feel like I'm looking at myself through in the camera or whatever, and I look beat, and I am so sorry guys that I look this beat. I usually film earlier in the week so that way I don't look like I'm about to like melt away into my chair, but I'm going on vacation and I really want y'all to still get, hold on, my lips are dry, I'm like gross. I'm going on vacation. I still want you guys to get my videos twice a week, and I'm just trying to keep up with that. We've been going on a really good mojo with that. My husband has been working with me with getting these videos out and ready. My hair looks beat. My face looked beat, and not like in a good way, not like beat makeup wise, but just beat as in like I need to go like sleep for like the rest of my life. But anyway, oh, look at my hair. It's Let's get on with the show. Alright, so today we are going to talk about beginner sweater patterns. I am so excited to talk to you about this. I get emails and messages all the time from beginner knitters. People who've only done like garter stitch, scarves, and flat knitting and things like that. And so many of y'all want to start knitting sweaters. And I always say y'all can do it. Like, y'all can do it. I learned how to knit a sweater just because I'm a bit of a competitive soul, or at least I was when I was in grad school. And I saw like one of my friends knitting a sweater, and I'm like, I can do that. I was like, I can do that. And then long and behold, my owl sweater came out. And it's not perfect. I mean, look at the underarms. That was my first time trying to graft. I had no idea what I was doing. Now I could probably regraft this, but it's all part of like the learning experience. I like to keep that on there. I think it's kind of funny. But this is my first sweater ever. And let me like, whoop. Give a little dance. And I just want to share with you all the trials and tribulations that come into knitting your first sweater. Some patterns that I personally recommend for your first sweater. And also some techniques, and just to like ease the fear. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just knitting. And I know ripping out knitting isn't fun, but you can always rip it out and start again. I feel like there's something really beautiful about ripping out knitting. Like, I love, like my husband, I'm getting out of breath. My husband, he always makes fun of me because whenever I have to rip out knitting, like I'm like designing a sweater right now and I ripped it out at least like 10 times. And every time I gotta rip out knitting, I get like gleeful because it's like, you know, like I get to just like relax for a minute and start over, start fresh, and start off with something even better. And to me, like that's how I look at ripping back. And I always tell people, don't be afraid of ripping back. Don't be annoyed at yourself when it comes to ripping back. It's okay. It's gonna be okay, guys. Okay. You know what I mean, though? Like, we're not going to, like, the world isn't gonna end because you had a frog or tank back stitches. It's honestly, to me, it's really refreshing to do it because then because, like, it's very rare in life when you get to, like, make a mistake and then you get to redo it like nothing happened. Like, that's something I wish we can do in real life. Can we tank back in life? Hello? Okay. If I could tank back in life, you know what I would do first? You know what I would do first? I'll tell my husband that we gotta get rid of this carpet in the house before we spend all our money on like redoing the kitchen. But or if I could redo, and then I would probably pick a different car because my car is like, I only had it for a few years and that thing's about to like just die, you know? So like maybe I'll pick a different car. I would rip out this carpet. I would like, I don't know, I would do so much different stuff. And that's all about knitting is that I can actually think back and make those changes in my life. Like, I don't know. Can y'all tell I'm slap happy tired yet? And I slept like 10 hours yesterday. Like, I had a good sleep. I woke up late. Went to bed at noon. I woke up at like went to bed at midnight. And I woke up at 10 a.m. Like, like I'm still tired. But we are prepping for a trip, so. What am I talking about? Oh, yeah, the puppy. Come here. Aria has not been on this show in forever because she's been really well behaved. Come on, puppy. Come on. Yeah, you're allowed. You're allowed this one time to jump on my lap. She's like asking me permission. Can you see her? Look at the people. Say, okay, she doesn't like it. She's been so good lately. She's growing out of her puppy stage and she's now a teenager. So she's like, she's testing boundaries a little bit like, oh, you telling me to sit? What you gonna get me? You know what I mean? But she's still trying to behave more. Like she's getting the rules, I should say. And she's so good. You're such a good dog now, Aria. Well, you were before, but you're really blossoming into a lady. It's so sweet to see. What am I talking about? All right, let's get started with sweater hacks. I just scratched my eye. So, oh my gosh, I had a whole spiel planned out with sweater hacks, and now I'm just like, hello? Okay, so my first sweater is this sweater, which is the Owl Sweater by Kate Davies. I picked this sweater because I just really loved the design. I love doing cabling earlier on in my knitting career, I guess. And I started with this sweater because it's bulky. It's knit in bulky yarn, so that means it'll be done in like a minute. This was my first sweater, and I knitted it in 7 days. And I was like, I pretty much had a full-time job. I was a student, MA student, so I wasn't just like sitting on my butt for 7 days. Like, I had to go to classes. I had a full schedule. So I was able to knit this in 7 days on top of my full schedule. And that's really what I was looking for with my first sweater pattern project. I did not want to be like married to a sweater for 5 years for my first sweater, because you're gonna make mistakes, you know what I mean? So I picked Kate Davies sweater, Owls. And here's the thing with this sweater. A lot of people have made mods to this sweater. And when I picked this pattern, I read a ton of project notes. So that's my first thing. Number one, pick a sweater that you really like. Make sure it's in like a loose gauge or a gauge that you complete. Like no smaller than worsted weight. Please leave the fingering sweaters for your second or third sweater because those things could take forever and they're pretty discouraging for a beginner. But the third thing is pick a sweater that's really tried and true. And I love to toot my own horn and say knit one of my sweater designs, you know what I mean? But the thing is, I'm a new designer, so not a lot of people have knitted my work. So what that means is that there are not a ton of pattern pages on, of my sweater patterns just yet. So say if someone had to make a mod, which probably fit better or look better, there's no notes on that. And even though this pattern was really well written and tech edited and tested and all that jazz, with every design, there's always room for mods, okay? Like, that's just how it is. When a million brains come together and knit something, the more heads to get, what's that saying? Like, you put your heads together and it's like, you get a better idea. You know what I'm trying to say is like the more people that knit it, the more improved a design can actually get. It's just part of the process. It's what I love about knitting and pattern design is seeing everyone's mods after I created a garment. It doesn't mean that the garment is bad per se. It just means that someone has knitted it. It was like, oh, this might look a little bit better. Oh, this might be a faster way to do it. It's just all part of the thing. So when you pick your first sweater, pick something that has at least 100 pattern pages on Ravelry. Like, I know that sounds like a lot, but honestly, there's been many times where even as an experienced knitter, I'm knitting a pattern that no one has really knitted before. Oh, I have breath because I'm like so excited. you can get stuck. And when it's your first sweater, you really don't want to be stuck and then discouraged. You know what I'm trying to say? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to be discouraged. So it really helps knit something like the owl sweater, or what is that sweater by Tin Can Knits? Is it flax? They have like a whole thing of like free designs that are beginner friendly, and they're meant to take you through the process of knitting your first sweater or your first hat. Or they got like so many patterns that are designed to be your first design, like your first pattern or your first knit in that pattern. So they have one for a hat, they got one for a cowl, they got one for a cardigan, they got one for a sweater. I think the sweater is called Flax. Avia, come here. She's trying to get to that cat poop. You're trying to get to that cat poop. So like, I think it's called Flax. I'm gonna put the picture right there. This is another great sweater to start with. It's been knitted thousands of times. The only reason why I didn't knit it is because I want to knit it for my husband, and he's picky AF. Like, he doesn't want a regular pullover, okay? He wants like a 3/4 button down, so button over here almost like a Henley, but not quite. And he wants it to be a zipper though, and then he wants like, I don't know. He says he's not picky. He picky. It's been like, we've been together for like 6 years, and there's a reason why he doesn't have a sweater yet, okay? Okay, Jake, you don't get no sweater from me because you picky. Like, it's like forever and a day. One day I want to literally design something just for him because he has so many like needs. Like, it has to have pockets, it has to have a zipper, it has to be really warm, it has to have this and that, and reinforced and knit and set in sleeves, and you know, like, and it can't look too like tight. I don't know. So anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the flax sweater. The flax sweater is honestly one of the greatest things to start off with your knitting. So flax is great. The owl sweater is great. I think those are my top two. They really are. I'm thinking about everything else. And if you know a design that's really great for beginners, put it in the bottom. I would love to toot my own horn and say, oh, knit my Final Frost cardigan or knit my Pines cardigan. But those aren't really beginner-friendly patterns. Not just because they don't have a ton of pattern pages yet, you know, you never know. But also because they are pretty much worded in a way where I kind of expect you to have some knowledge in pattern construction. Like, I explain a lot of it, but it's kind of written in a very traditional pattern construction way. You know, is knit in a very specific, is knit in like a traditional sweater pattern. And if you've ever read, my boy cat is like, I want to sit on that lap. Come on. Have y'all seen my crusty old man? Davosito. This is how we do it now. I have to blow out this candle because he's a hot mess. Hi, baby. I'm going to blow out this candle. There we go. Gotta keep it safe from my babes. Is this distracting? Hi, honey. He doesn't like affection like that. He likes to hang out with his humans. But he's not really into, like, tons of pets. But he loves to sit on your lap and just, like, sleep with you. And, like, usually he's the one that's sleeping, like, on my husband's, like, chest all night. But he's not really into, like, pets. Oh, no, don't lick my waffles! Oh, this is a train wreck right now. These are my waffles. And he only jumped up here to get to my waffles. This show is a hot mess. Hey, I have a Patreon. If you want to help this hot mess of a show, I'm going to put my Patreon link in the bottom. I'm going to do my first Patreon benefits for next Wednesday's podcast. So please check that out. If you click become a patron before February is over, then you will be part of that first benefit podcast ever. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. And I have so much, like, it's going to be great. So if you want to help this train wreck of a waffle, cat, candle, dog podcast, then so he just lit the top one. So like, I'm just gonna like, here, Aria. The bottom one is still good. Hot mess. And now he's looking jealous at the dog. You cannot have waffles. You're a cat, okay? You're a carnivore. So we talked about the designs that I recommend. The flax sweater and the owl sweater are two of my like top designs that I really like, just because they're simplicity and because they've been tried and true. But once you pick your sweater, then you have to look into, okay, what design, what construction is this design knitted in? So the owl sweater is knitted bottom up, which means I cast it on the hem. And then, hello shirt. Hello non-woven and ends from like 6 years ago. And then I knitted the hem, and then I worked my way up to the underarm. Set this first tube aside. So I set the body aside. Yes, this was knit in the round, so it's pretty much a big body tube. Set it aside. Then I worked on the arm tubes separately. Set that aside. And then when I was ready, I just took all of my tubes together and knitted them together across for, down here for a few inches. Worked on this cable. And then knitted the decreases for the shoulders. So it's just a full-on top-down seamless design. Not everyone bottom up seamless design. And not everyone likes bottom up, because it's hard to gauge how long you need to make each tube. Now, but when I worked on this, I had just graduated from fashion school. I was in my master's program for a different major, but I had just graduated fashion school. So I already knew my measurements, like, more so than the average person. So I did not have any issue with measuring my body. I knew at the time, before I gained a lot of weight, okay? I knew at the time that I needed a 15-inch body. I knew I needed longer sleeves than what the pattern would call for, because I got long arms, hey. So I already knew what I needed. I already knew the fit that I wanted. I already knew everything about it. It was pretty good. So I did not struggle with sizing as much as some people may when it comes to bottom up. And so if you feel like you don't have a good understanding of your measurements, body type, if you never made a garment for yourself ever, whether you sewed it like I did or knitting or what have you, then I have to recommend the flax sweater, because it's knitted top down. And what's beautiful about top down is that you do the hardest part first, which is the yoke shaping. So which means is that you pretty much can gauge whether or not this sweater fits within the first few inches of knitting the yoke. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you knit top down, you're doing your shoulder shaping. So you can try it on in the midst of your shoulder shaping and see how well it's fitting up to that point. It's much easier. When you're doing bottom up, you kind of already have to know, okay, I have a 30 bust, so I want to knit the 28 bust, or I have a 38 bust and I want to be loose. And like, you already kind of know your measurements. You already know how you want it to fit. You already have that experience. So when you're doing bottom up, you're pretty much set in stone. Like you're casting on the amount of stitches essentially that you pretty much want your bust to be a lot of the times. Like with this sweater, I think I cast it on the amount I wanted my bust to be. And then if you look in the back, there's like, there's decreases. You see those darts? So I decreased for the waist, and then I did increases again to get back to the original or close to original stitch count. And that's essentially what, got dizzy for a minute. Stood up too fast, sat down too fast, talked too fast. But that's essentially what, like, I cast it on, was essentially my bust circumference. So if you're unsure what your bust circumference is, or if you're unsure how much ease you want, or what have you, of the fit, what have you, then I highly recommend top down. It is the best way to get a custom fit sweater that is, that will fit you, because then you get to try it on as you go. And a lot of people, when they try on their sweaters, they don't know this. When they try on their sweaters, they put all their live stitches on waste yarn, okay? That takes time and effort. You know what I do? I'm looking for it. Hold on. Did everyone see my colorful leggings? I hope so. Anyway, I use these. I use cable needle. What are these called? Every time I say this on the podcast, from the dawn of time of my podcast, I can never remember what these are called. Circular needles. They're circular needles. I use circular needles that are interchangeable, which means they do this. I screw off the top, and then I could put like a knob on it that could prevent my live stitches from slipping off. So what I did was, when I knew I wanted to try on my top-down sweater, you know what I did? This is smart, okay? I think it's smart. I would pick a long circular needle that was way too long for the thing that I was knitting. And then I would just knit all of my live stitches onto that long circular needle. And because you're technically knitting with 2 circular needles, that's another method of knitting in the round. So what happens is that your super long circular needle will not be too long for the work because you're using 2 needles. It's like that 2 circular needle knitting in the round method that a lot of people use with socks. You're pretty much doing it. Okay. I'm so out of breath. I'm sorry. I'm beat. I'm out of breath. I'm tired. I'm so sorry. Where's my vacation? I hope y'all can understand me between the huffing and puffing. I feel like a weirdo. I don't know what's happening to me. I'm just tired. Oh, I need a drink. I wish my candle was still here so I could smell it. Ooh. Too strong. Okay. So I would transfer that sweater onto long circular needles. Like, these are way too long for me. Be perfect. And then, or I will knit half of my stitches onto a second circular needle. So that way the other half is on my original circular needle, and that will still give me enough ease and enough movement where I could put my garment on and see if it fits without transferring my live stitches onto scrap yarn. It's genius. It's genius. I have a blog post on that. I'm going to have to link it, okay? I'm going to link it below, actually. It's below. It's below. I got a blog post on how I did that. And it's flipping, I love it, because then you can try it on without having to pause your work progress. It's amazing. And that's what I did with a few of my top downs. I don't have them on me. But, yeah, so that helps. So, that being said, which one do I prefer? Bottom up or top down? Now, I like both. It really depends on the design. I understand why Kate Davies, aka the Davies, went bottom up for this. I personally would have went bottom up for this too with the design. I just think it's, I don't know. I just think it really complements the yoke. Sorry, I'm grabbing my boob, but it complements the yoke a lot. I am knitting a similar sweater that's bottom up and bulky, but it's not like a seamless yoke design. It's set-in sleeve, and I chose to do that bottom up because I found that set-in sleeves in the round designing, it's much easier to knit it bottom up than top down. Top down can be a little more tricky. There's a lot more parts straight out the gate. I found when you first start a pattern for the first time, it can be very confusing because you're trying to get with the pattern designer's style of writing patterns, trying to get with visualizing the pattern. You know what I mean? Like, if you've never knitted a pattern before, there's always initial, like, confusion, at least for me. So I try to complement my designs to the easiest construction possible. That's why I chose bottom up for an upcoming design, because it's set in sleeve. There's less moving parts. It's pretty much more intuitive for that particular design. especially with the fact with it being a split hem and it's a v-neck. There's a lot going on up top. I wanted to start with the easiest part to ease my knitters into this pattern. And I feel like the same thing happened with the Kate Davies design. I was a beginner knitter, and the owl part can be the trickiest one, because if you don't pay attention, you know, one owl could be facing this way. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, I love that she eased us into the design. Started with really easy, predictable, intuitive construction, and then ended it with a really fun yoke. And then went back to some really simple decreasing and ending. Like, I find that really brilliant. And the same thing with the flax. The flax is knitted differently, where it's top down, but it's like the easy part is you get your fit done automatic, like really fast, because you could try it on as you go. There's no guesswork. It's very simple to do that with the flax. You pretty much get the ease of getting your fit done fast, and then once you get your fit done, it's like smooth sailing. So both construction methods, top down or bottom up, definitely have their own ways of easing knitters into a design for the first time. So what have we talked about so far? We talked about looking at everyone's pattern pages, picking a design that has at least 100 pattern pages on Ravelry. I know that's a big order, but it helps a beginner knitter so much. I spent hours, guys, hours looking at pattern pages for the owl sweater, just because I wanted to make sure I understood. It's even great because when it comes to free patterns like the flax sweater, people actually have videos of them knitting it on YouTube because it's a free pattern. And so you can see how someone else knits it and someone else conquers like issues in the knitting that they might find. So that's another great thing about knitting a old pattern, like an older pattern that's been around for a minute, that people have knitted, it's tried and true. Again, I would love to toot my own horn and say, knit my sweaters, but I'm a new designer and I don't have that the tried and true years of people knitting it, years of editing, and years of people like finding mods. Like half of this sweater is modified. I did not follow a lot of what Kate Davies wrote. I follow what a lot of people found that they liked. Like I did my sleeve decreases differently. When I knitted this again for my mom, I just have a different body type than my mom. I put my darts in the back as Kate suggested, but my mom is a different shape. She's definitely more like, I'm an hourglass, but she's really an hourglass. So I put hers on the side because it really went with her particular shape. So I made changes to it, and that's okay. I mean, this is still a brilliant pattern to knit straight up without making mods. You know what I'm saying? But it may help a beginner to read other people's notes. It definitely helped me. Now it's time for yarn. When it comes to yarn, let's see. I stuck with Knit Picks my first few years in knitting. That's what I did. Nowadays, I don't knit with a lot of Knit Picks just because I've had more yarn support than I did. So I don't always get to knit with Knit Picks anymore, even though I still have a special place in my heart for Knit Picks. I really do. But this yarn is used using Knit Picks Big O. It is 50% merino superwash and 50% nylon. This makes it a very affordable yarn blend that's very easy to care for. It's very soft, very squishy because it's a 2-ply. But look, it does pill, okay? Before I was talking about pilling with sweaters and how a lot of times when you use cheaper yarns with sweaters, you could pill it and you could de-pill it and be done. Well, because this particular sweater is a chunky 2-ply, bulky weight yarn that's really loosely plied, you won't have that where you de-pill it once and you're done forever. This particular sweater, you have to routinely de-pill it at least every season. It is the end of the winter season, so before I take this back out for next fall, I really gotta like de-hair it. But I'm okay with that. It was a very affordable yarn, and it is a 2-ply, so 2-plies will pill. On the flip side, they're very soft and very cozy, and that's what I love about this yarn. And it was affordable. I think I paid $40 for this sweater. I bought my yarn on Black Friday from Knit Picks. Now, the reason why I'm talking about affordability with your first sweater is that this is your first sweater. You're not sure if you even like sweater making. You probably will, because there's nothing not to like about it. You know what I'm saying? But you may not like it, so you don't want to like spend a whole bunch of money on yarn. You know what I mean? So if you want to see some more affordable yarn options, I'm going to link to my affordable yarn option video at the end of this video, so you can go ahead and click it and see some options. Now, I personally love this yarn. It will pill on you. It does not seem to disappear as much. It's definitely better than the first time I wore it out a few times. It's definitely pilling less, but it's still pilling. I still think it's cute, and it only pills where I'm rubbing. So, of course, sleeves, because I'm rubbing, you know, when you walk and stuff, you're rubbing against the sweater, under the arms and places like that. Everywhere else where you see it, like on the front and back, there's very little pilling, if any. As you can see, it's very crisp. And even though it's a 2-ply, I found that you still get really good stitch definition, because the individual single plies that make up the 2-ply are very round and very bold, and they really do make a nice, not overtly rustic yarn. I need to breathe. Hold on. Another yarn that also makes an appearance, which I talk more in depth about this in my affordable yarns video, is Wool-Ease. Wool-Ease is really affordable. Look, this is all jacked because I collect Wool-Ease in my house. I've had this one for years. I use this for a sweater. I'm going to put it right here. And these are like, what, $5, $6 a skein, and you get like, how much you get? 197 yards, almost 200 yards of a washable wool blend. So if you want to know more about yarn suggestions, then please check that video out. It's going to be at the end of this video. Anyway, guys, I hope some of these tips helped you. If you have any more tips to share with others, put it down in the comments below. Let's get the conversation going. What are some great tips that help you as a beginner sweater knitter? For me, is definitely picking a sweater that was tried and true and with a bigger gauge. So go ahead and sound off in the comments. And thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see y'all Wednesday. Bye!